Here we are again. Another week of Teen Talks. Welcome back. And today we are going to be talking about the age-old thing of why is my teen spending so much time in their room? What are they doing in there?
Yeah, and more
Right?
importantly, giving them space when they need their space.
But I don't know. I don't know what they're doing in there. They're in there too long. I don't know.
Yeah, the real question is, do you want to know what they're doing in there? Do you
And is
truly
it
want to know?
normal? Is it normal? Or is my teen just, I don't know, missing out on life because they're spending so much time in their room? These are all
Mm,
questions that parents ask. I did. Yeah.
yeah. I
And
think I think it boils down to something that's a lot deeper than just like physically isolating in the room. I
mhm.
think it's actually tied to wanting independence in some way. And I feel like that's why they do isolate, because then they're in their own space. They can do whatever they want and they find themselves in a situation where they can be independent. Um, the reason why I say that is because I just remember like when I was a teenager and even to this day as a young adult, one of the biggest things that, is constantly on my mind is wanting to make decisions for myself and
Mhm.
understanding that, I might not get it right all the time. I might fail, I might mess up, it might be the quote unquote wrong decision. But I'm okay with that. And yeah, so I think that that's one level to it, and it could be. I think there's so many other things as well that play into it, but I think that is one of the things that teenagers, especially teenagers, they're at that age where they're starting to get their independence. They
Yeah,
start getting their driver's license. They start hanging out with people after school and doing all that stuff, and
I
yeah.
think especially when you are a young teenager, so 13,
Mm,
14, 15, before you have that independence to go out when you're driving and all that, it is sort of the beginning of independence. It's safe because they're in your home, they're in their room, and this is where they need that time to figure out who they are
mm,
because they don't know who they are.
yeah.
And you don't figure that out until you're alone,
Hmm.
right? Now, what they're doing in their room, I know that, there are many things they're probably doing in there, and some things parents worry, like internet, things like that. Um, so those worry things we can talk about at some point.
Yeah.
But most of the time, what are they doing in their room?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you because I mean, I have an idea because now that my kids are older, I can ask them what they did in there, and I have.
Yeah.
um, but what would you say since you're still doing that?
Well, I mean, I'm living on my own right now. So I think
Yeah.
my situation was very different. It was very, very
Mm-hmm.
different. However, I have lived in different households with teenagers and stuff. So I've also been able to see it from an outsider's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, in today's day and age, there's a lot of technology. So there is the scrolling on social media, there is the texting friends, FaceTiming friends, and video calling friends, and all that
Mm-hmm.
jazz. There's a lot of video games. There is living in that virtual space. And I think we've touched on this in a previous episode, but teenagers find comfort in that space, like that technological, that virtual
It's
life
very
and
much a part of their
environment.
world. Yeah.
It is their world. It is
Yeah.
their world. There's
Yeah.
a combination of like reality and like the physical realm and the virtual world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's so there's definitely a lot of that going on. But there could be other stuff. There could be things like, they might literally just be doing their work, or they might, and they
Yeah. Their
just like
homework.
yeah, their homework, and they just shut the door. They want their own space. They want to focus. That could be a thing. Um, and it could be other things as well. I mean, there are cases where, teens are doing things that maybe aren't the best things for them. It's true. It happens. Um, the question then becomes like, how do you figure it out,
Mhm.
without trespassing,
Yeah,
because their room is their space, you know?
right.
And I think there's one thing that's really important. It's to respect that space, first of all, to respect that,
Mhm.
that is their space, even though it is your house. Their room is their space. And if you were to trespass, and what I mean by trespass is like, you enter the room without knocking or asking if you can come in, or if you go in their room when they're not there and you start looking around, those little things are actually breaking trust, I feel, between
Exactly.
you and
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And
As much as you really want to do it, to make sure
yeah,
everything's okay, you want to go look around and make sure, just try not to do that, because if they find out you've done that, trust is broken right there.
yeah,
You know, do just like you as an adult, you wouldn't want them to do that for your room, right? So don't do it to theirs.
yeah,
We have to remember that our kids are, as they're getting into teenagers, to become, they are teenagers, we need to respect that they are a person who has feelings, who yes, is hiding things because they're embarrassed or because it's their personal stuff. And we as parents, we don't get that.
yeah,
That's not, it's not our job to be in there. And it's disrespectful when we push ourselves into that part of their world, because that's their personal world. It's not our space. And
yeah.
I think as parents, we think we own all of it, but we don't.
Mm-hmm.
And when we don't think we own it all and we push, they're just going to shut down
Yeah,
100%. So being, respecting that space, I think, is extremely important. And I heard this once. I was on I think I was listening to some YouTube thing on whatever, I don't know. But this kid in the comments put, yeah, my mom always says, why are you in your room so much? Blah, 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 blah. And then when I come out, she gives me crap about it. And it's like, well, why do I want to come out then? If every time I come out, she gives me crap about it.
yeah,
So, right. So I think something that parents also need to realize is, don't make comments that are negative about them being in their room.
yeah,
Be happy when they come out, and and just embrace the connection and the relationship when they're out of their room,
yeah,
because then it becomes a battle, and then they're just gonna leave you again. They're gonna,
yeah,
why should I come out into the house when I'm just getting shit on, when my room is safer? I'll just stay there.
yeah. That's so true. That's so true. And just to piggyback off of that, like, there's you also can't assume what they're doing. You don't
Mhm.
know. Unless you do know because they've told you or you've seen it firsthand, you have no idea what they're doing. And you don't want to be judgmental or anything about that, because those are all things that are going to push them away. And they'll feel like you're coming into their sacred space, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
they'll like that, regardless of, even if we were to separate like the relationship and everything that you and your teen have, it's
Yeah.
like someone who you don't feel comfortable with yet necessarily, or
Right.
you know that person's coming into your space and judging you for being in your space, like that can
Yeah.
only make you feel a certain way, right? It's
Exactly.
and it's negative. So I think we've established, like, yeah, there's a huge importance on giving teens their space, right?
Mhm.
And it could be, in their rooms. And I know, like, for me, for example, having my own space, it manifested itself like, playing on the soccer field, right? The
Yeah.
soccer field was my space to just be me and to do my thing. And I remember, sometimes, like, when my dad would come and watch me, and if he would tell me something, like, or he'd tell me things as I'm playing, I remember how that would make me feel, right? It wouldn't make me
Mhm.
feel the best way, because I'm just there and, like, I'm trying to play, have fun. And having someone who's maybe judging you, or who's there constantly, you know telling you things about how you should be or what you should be doing and how it's not a good thing and all of that,
Yeah.
it can hurt you, right?
Mhm.
Ultimately. So it's
Right.
really important to give them their space. However, it's not easy, right, Susan? It is not an easy thing to do.
No.
And my question to you, Susan, is, as a parent from your experience, what are ways then in that case, keeping in mind, like, yes, space is important, but how do you balance giving them their space and almost being a part of their life as well? Because, there's some teens who they'll just close themselves in their room and they won't say anything. They'll come out for dinner and then boom, go straight back in, you
Hmm.
know? How,
Well,
how
I
do
think,
parents
like I
find that balance?
said before, is that when they're not in their room and when you're in your presence, make it so that it's a good place, a safe space to be. That home is safe, home is safety, home is love, home is I can do or say anything and my mom or dad will accept me the way I am, right?
Yeah.
It's not a scary space. And that's, I think, one thing that's the most important thing, is that home has to be the place of safety, love, respect, honor, and allowing them to be who they are without any judgment anywhere.
Mm,
And if you create that space in the home, they're not going to want to be in their room as much, right? They're going to be
yeah.
okay with coming out and maybe talking with you. Um, so that's what I think too. I remember like my son still does this, but sleeping all the time. Like, oh my
Mm,
gosh, they're sleeping until noon, or sleeping, whatever. I think one of the things that we need to remember is that teens need sleep.
mm,
So if they're sleeping in till late, let them, because they've got a lot of pressure with school and sports and what other activities they have going on, plus their friends and everything. They need sleep. So I think we sometimes get a little bit like weird about it, but we shouldn't. you
yeah.
know
Yeah,
they
like
need sleep.
don't expect them to be like you, because in reality, like, they don't have the same responsibilities as you as a parent. Um,
Mhm.
they're just living the life that they know, and sometimes, yeah, they just get tired and stuff. I mean, and honestly, if it'll come from them, the moment where they decide that they want to wake up early or to get a head start on the day or kind of change that pattern, like, it'll come from them and that'll happen. But you also remember, like, you don't want to instill like a negative effect where you constantly tell them, wake up early, why are you always sleeping in, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
That again, it's like the reverse psychology on that is harmful, because they're going to associate waking up early and being productive and all that with a negative memory or a negative thought. You don't want that
Mhm.
either, right?
Yeah,
So it's a tricky one. It's definitely a tricky one, because
definitely is.
it's like you want to say something and you're obviously you're doing it out of love always,
Yeah.
and you want to kind of intervene. You want to know what's going on. You just want to know everything, because that might be the best way that you feel you can help them once you know everything. But in this situation, it's one of those things where you almost have to just let them live and be individuals and just kind of grow on their own. And then when they come into your space, then you just welcome them with open arms and you make them feel at home, right?
Hmm. Yeah. And if you feel like something's wrong, or if something isn't, just feels off, like their behavior is instantly changed to it, just all of a sudden you see a quick change in behavior, then
Hmm.
that's when you may start to go, all right, we need to like ask. I
Yeah.
just noticed, something like I noticed that you're in your room more these days, and that's fine. I just want to make sure, is everything okay? Can I help you with something? Not accusing, but just saying, I noticed that this isn't your typical behavior.
Yeah.
Um, is there anything I can help you with? Is there anything you need? Is there some, do you want to talk? Whatever. But coming at it that way, and
Yeah.
instead of accusing or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing I want to bring up that I know drives parents nuts is the messy room. That the room is so messy. And like, I when I did get a chance to go in, I like knock on the door always, knock on the door, and don't knock on the door and walk in. Knock on the door and wait. Can I come in? Or let them open the door. Because it's like, well, I knocked on the door, and no, you have to wait. But the times that I go in there, And it's like you're looking around the room and there's just clothes everywhere, dishes, cups, papers, everything is just strewn all over the place. And
Yeah.
you're just going, "Ugh." uh don't say anything. You could say something like, hey, that's where my dish is. We need the dishes back in the kitchen. Maybe you could bring them in
Yeah.
next time you come out. But don't say anything about the mess or anything. That's their space. They figure it out.
Yeah.
It's a part of growing up. And it's not your room. It's their room and they can deal with it. If they want to live in that mess, let them live in that mess. You'll clean it up when they move out. You should have seen it when my son moved out. It was like, oh, all of a sudden, yeah, I found a lot of dishes and things that I hadn't seen in a long time. And a lot of trash. Come out with a big old trash bag. But it's okay. They want to live in that. That's fine.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's a funny story.
So
yeah, I think but I think we'd love to know from you guys like what experiences you've had and when it comes to this, because like your teens like locking themselves in their rooms and stuff like that, because everyone's experience is different, everyone's situation is different, the reasons why they do it is different as well. It's just curious to know, and you guys can let us know in the comments, because there might be more specific situations that we might want to talk about later on
yeah,
in future
yeah,
episodes, and when we do our Q&A episodes as well, because everyone's different, every teenager is different, everyone's situation is different, everyone's upbringing is different, so it'll be interesting to know what these
definitely.
different situations are, because we've talked about it very generally, like on a from a wide perspective, but it'll be interesting to know the more specific details on
Yeah.
how that's been, and people's experiences.
Yeah, we really want to take Teen Talks and make it be a family, a conversation between us, yes, between us, but also between you,
Yeah.
because we know you're struggling with things, or you have lots of like probably wins that you want to share too. So we want it to be something where it's a conversation with everybody.
Yeah.
And the way to do that is for you to let us know, in the comments. And we probably should just open up a forum at some point, maybe on, I
Yeah,
don't know.
like building some sort of a community is
Yeah,
what we'd like to do,
because I
because
think
it's important.
it would be good to have even teens and parents in the same community and have a discussion, a non-judgmental discussion where it's feedback both ways and thoughts. And I think it'd be a really great, a great community that's probably not out there.
Yeah, because I think that our one of the biggest things for us is to help both parties kind of understand like
Mm-hmm.
each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
Helping
Yeah,
parents understand teens, why they do what they do, why they behave the way that they behave, what's going through their minds and all that. But then also in some way, like helping teens also understand a parent's perspective, where they're coming
exactly.
from, why they behave the way that they do, why they'll act a certain way. Um, because I feel like once you start understanding why people do what they do and why they are who they are, then you start judging and you start having empathy for them, and that's
Mm-hmm.
where change happens, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, we do want to take this to
Understanding.
that point. Yeah, we really want to take
Mhm.
it to that point where, conversations are being had, like where both, teens and parents are interacting with each other and helping each other out by sharing their stories and sharing their experiences, because that's kind of what
Yeah.
we're doing right now, right?
Yep.
The conversation that Susan and I are having, these are all about two different perspectives and sharing our points of view
Mm-hmm.
regarding these different topics, because they are
Exactly.
so different. And we'd like to have that in real time with you guys. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and it starts by leaving comments and asking questions and having all that stuff
Yeah.
happen here. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you'd like a community and if you got some ideas, please put that in there too, or email us, email me,
Yeah.
DM Rehan. All this stuff is at the end of in the show notes everywhere you can reach us. So this has been great. So you know, back off on the bedroom, let them do their thing. It's 99% of the time, it's okay. Nothing bad's happening in there. It's just a lot of growth and figuring themselves out. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Alrighty.
All right.
Take care,
Till next
everyone.
time.
Till next time, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and tune in next week for another episode.
Yeah. Awesome.
Alrighty. Bye.
Bye. Got this.